Oh yeah, welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters. We're doing the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose Open Qualifier today, so not quite the main event, as you've probably figured out by now. We're not quite in a sports stadium just yet. That's coming on Saturday and Sunday though. But Kev's back. What do you make of that last one? Yeah, you were a bit frustrated with me because you were like, talk about Game 2! Why didn't you ask him about Game 2? And I totally forgot, so I'm bad.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We were just talking about it in break. I was like, I'm really curious to see what Hawk has to say, especially about Game 2. Paul's like, all right, Hawk, talk to us about the tournament. It's like, okay. Hawk, then talk to us about Game 1. I was like, well, okay. Hawk, and then Game 3. I was like, Paul, killing me, Paul. He's really building this one up. Now we're going to get it.
My
and then
bad.
Paul's like, and Hawk, and then last, let's just talk about the next round. Paul.
Just sitting there, what is he doing? So we're well and truly on our way through Open Bracket 1. We're not too far away from finishing, actually, so it's a good time to check in with the bracket and show you some of the scores that have occurred throughout the day. Some you've seen, some we haven't seen, and there haven't really been too many surprises in all. Zanster coming through against Calibre in the end. That was a tough match for him as well. It was 2-1 in the end. He'll now play puCK, which is the next game we'll see right here in the studio. Intense earlier on, going down 2-1 against puCK. James was sitting here on the couch with me and he said, watch this, Intense is going to 2-0 puCK. And I said, really? He said, yeah, he's done it already once, so he's going to do it again. And I thought, yeah, that's a good point, but it didn't work out that way.
No,
but I have to say, he played really well. I mean, you could argue maybe he shouldn't have lost that second game, but still.
I think it's a combination of a few things, just a few nerves, and a couple of times you see him just be a little sloppy. Like, you can be a little bit more finesse as a Terran player. Like, medevacs are kind of derpy units. Like, they're really awesome if they carry units and you're speeding around, but if they're following, sometimes they're ahead of the pack, sometimes they're behind the pack. And the pro Terrans, like if you watch the guys like MMA and Bomber, you know, they always have their medevacs in positions like, oh, the pro's going to try to snipe the medevac, but they get like 2 shots off and then you have to blink back. And you saw Hawk just a couple of times, he got 3-4 medevacs for free. That shouldn't really happen on this level, but overall Intense played very well. And I called Sean out a little bit as well. He's like 2-0 for Hawk. Nah, it's gonna be closer than that.
Yeah.
And then Intense won Game 1 and Game 2. Like, we really saw Hawk with a couple of fist pump, and that also showed that it was a big relief for him that he still won that game because he was far behind.
Yeah, there was a moment actually where he went top right. Intense went top right with 4 medevacs, and you could see what he was going to do. He was going to try and drop to try and kill off that Nexus. I think it was the 4th at the time. And he got up there, but as soon as he got up there, he knew immediately he wasn't getting out, and he was going to lose every unit because those 4 medevacs literally got sniped out straight away, and puCK knew. It was like a sixth sense that he had. He was like, okay, he's baiting me into the middle of the fight, and he's actually going to pull me over to the right-hand side. And as soon as he dropped it in there, they were gone. And it's kind of the key, isn't it? It was like those small changes between, like you said, the MMAs, the Pults of this world, and learning that next step.
But to give him some props, totally agree with you, but to give Intense still some props, he made the best out of that situation. Because like sometimes as a Terran player, if you fly medevacs in, it can be really scary if you get feedback immediately. It's like, I should retreat. He's just like, you know what, I got feedback, but I'm still going to make the best of the scenario. And he did get the Nexus. And of course, he lost a handful of units, but he got away with 1 medevac of a couple of Marauders in it. And I think even the second one, which was very low HP, also got out. So he still lost like a solid 25-30 supply in bio units, but it wasn't for nothing. So just a lot of things that Intense can definitely take away from this tournament. And, for future references, like I said, I've seen him a couple of times at local lands here in SoCal, but it's very different playing in front of like 12 people standing behind you, watching over your shoulder, or suddenly you're playing at the IEM. I mean, it's not the main stage yet, but it is the tournament, and there are a lot of eyes on you. Like, not every day will Intense play on a stream like this with so many people watching.
I mean, puCK said in part of his advice to him was that he just needs to attend more of these events and get more relaxed about it. But I have to say, for a player of 17 years old, sitting on a stream, in the Intel Extreme Masters, 1 shot away from going to San Jose, he looked pretty calm to me. I mean, he's having a bit of fun with the camera, he's waving, he's smiling. I don't think he looked that nervous.
Maybe not in his physical appearance, but in his play, like I've seen Intense play way cleaner. Like we mentioned the victory he had over Showtime, the German proto. That poor Showtime, by the way. This is like the 6th time we mentioned that victory. I'm sorry, Showtime. You're a very good protos as well. But that's one of the bigger victories that Intense had. He had a reasonable run in that tournament, and that shows. And he played very clean. And today against Hawk, there were definitely a couple of slip ups here and there. Like I said, medevacs. And also one moment where I really felt Kingston Station, like if that's a ladder game against a no-name, he just ends the game right there and then. This time he just gave puCK a little too much respect. He waits for enough full vote and overcharge, and then like another one goes down, and then like suddenly there are a bunch of Archons, and then he finally takes the fight. Well, he could have fought a much weaker Protoss army. So even though like maybe he didn't look that nervous on stage, in his decision making, I do think nerves definitely came into play, because he could have been a lot more relentless, and that would have been for the better of his play.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next game. puCK, always one of those players, and I've said this so many times this year, I'm almost sick of saying it, because he has massive potential. He really does. You watch some of the games that he's played this year, and they have been absolutely terrific. But at the same time, he doesn't seem to get to that next stage where he knows he can get to. Why?
It's tricky as well with puCK, because I feel the same way. There's been quite a few times going into tournaments like, okay, this could be the tournament that instead of the round of 16, puCK's going to make it to the semifinals, and that's already something that's much more memorable than, you know, defeating, because he has defeated those world-class Koreans. He has multiple victories over Hyans and Jaedongs, and especially in PvZ, a matchup that I gave him a lot of love for. I know Nate also loves puCK PvZ. Of course, Nate is personal sponsor for the event. So puCK has it, but then often, you know, he's a player that always has motivation for the game. He just doesn't always have the right tournament competitive mindset. And that's something that he has been struggling with. Like I said, he's been staying with me yesterday or the day before. I picked him up at the airport. And he seems very relaxed. And he said, like, I may have not played as much as I've done in the past, but I'm still playing a fair bit. And I've been much more working on myself outside of the game. You know, going to the gym, living more healthy, feeling better about myself. And he's like, and overall, I feel like I'm a better player now than I've been before. But to say that this is really going to be that tournament, it is possible that puCK qualifies, but I would be very surprised if he would make it out of the main stage. But even Zanster is already going to be a big task.
Yeah, we'll talk about him as well, because that's his opponent for this next game. He seems to have struggled through the results. We haven't seen him on the stream just yet, so I haven't had a chance to check him out backstage. But just in terms of the results that he's had, seem to have been tough already. Yeah,
He's a funny guy. This is the first time that I've ever met him in person. Think of Welmu, but then just a little more Swedish and a little younger. That's pretty much the impression I'm getting from Zanster. He's a very nice guy, a little smiley, likes to say some silly things. I've seen games of him in the past, and he was just one of these Swedish Zergs that we had quite a few in the old days. And he was like a newer generation Swedish Zerg, like Mini Razor, Zanster. And that's like, okay, sort of is kind of an in-between when it comes to generations. He's good, but also just waiting for something that will truly make us say like, hey, Zanster is really good because of this and that. And he didn't really have too many of those results to his name yet.
Yeah, what is it with these Swedes? I mean, across multiple games as well, it's not just StarCraft, but they seem to be able to churn out like a conveyor belt of talent. And when one fades away, another one pops up, and then you're like, oh, okay, they've got another Swedish player, and another one, and they keep having great events. And what is the difference? What is it about Sweden, do you think? Is it the setup? Is it their acceptance of esports? Is it the money? Is it the associations? What is it?
I think it's maybe a little bit of everything. Of course, it's often very cold in Sweden, so I think that motivates people to play video games. But I also do think it helps that Sweden has such a rich esport history. Like, if you see players like Naniwa and Torsen, you know, being so successful on the international stage, that motivates you as because you know that you're going to meet those guys at national qualifiers or national cups. So it doesn't feel like you're watching these stars on the other side of the world. Like, oh, you're watching one of these boys that grew up in Stockholm that's like going to these big StarCraft events. I think that can be very motivating. So that may have something to do with it. Other than that, I know they have fantastic internet. Like, they have like the best, one of the best internet in Europe, I think, or maybe the best. At least the connection to the Battle.net service is really good, so that often helps a little. It's just a lot of few things, but you know, I'm happy. I welcome my Swedish overlords because they're all very nice.
Yeah, well said. Hopefully Matt Vito's aren't too far away from beginning, but I just gives us an opportunity to talk about puCK once more, because one of the things that you said, and I kind of, it really sort of, I picked up on it in a way, because it seems like it's a little bit like TLO. Maybe 12, 18 months ago, in the sense that he has all the right skills, all the right ingredients, he plays the game the right way, has some great ideas about how to win a match, but somehow has tournament block or whatever. And he seems to be following a similar pattern in that, you know, TLO said, okay, I'm going to eat healthier, I'm going to sleep better, I'm going to have a fitness lifestyle with him, I'm going to see a coach, I'm going to talk to a psychologist, I'm going to have all of these things happen in order to help me go to the next level. And I think it would be fair to say that over the course, if you look back over the whole 12 months, TLO's played much better this year than he did last year. Is that something you think puCK can benefit from as well?
I think it's going to benefit anyone, as we do have the map feeders on the way, by the way. But just to touch up on that a little bit more, I agree with you, but I do think that TLO at least has the comfort of that, knowing that he's been a very successful player in the past. Like TLO, probably more than anyone else in the StarCraft scene, has very high peaks and then very low lows, and then it just goes very fast. Like TLO's career is like a roller coaster ride almost. And then sometimes he does have like this steady going up for a while, and then it's just this massive drop again. For puCK is still waiting for a peak like TLO has had on multiple occasions throughout his career, because TLO has made very solid top 4 performances.
I mean, it's okay though, Kev, because you could be just like me as a StarCraft player and just have loads of lows.
Well, that's that makes two of us, Paul. My highs are not very high either. Like I try, but still waiting for my first dollars to be earned by playing this game.
Yeah, I know where you're making your dollars right now. Enough of that though. Zanster or puCK? Who are you going with?
It's actually a tricky one, because normally when I see puCK, then he's convinced about his PvZ, he's confident, and this time he's just like, I don't really feel my PvZ is better than my other matchups, and that worries me, because once if you're very good in the matchup, then normally you're supposed to be always very excited to play that matchup. Like, in general, that's not something that really fades away. But I'm still going puCK, but I do think it's going to be a 2-1.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll find out who advances on. Big game for these two, because loser is done and dusted as far as San Jose is concerned, and the winner gets one final shot against puCK to go through to the group stages. Let's find out who advances.
All right, thanks very much, guys, as we have a bit of a change-up, because now we get to watch some PvZ. Still a lot of Protoss present, but we've had PvT after PvT after PvT. Let's see how our Zergs are faring.
Yeah, good to get some Zergs on the stream here and see how well they're doing, and see how well Zanster can do here, representing Europe, coming over for this in the open bracket. Going to take on, one of the top 10 American players here. We'll see how he can do.
Yeah, and Zanster, of all players, when it comes down to the open bracket, he's actually a player that's been quite under the radar for a long time, but he got that second place at IESF. Not too long ago, actually, back in November, mid-November, which isn't exactly a tournament that got too much publicity or whatever. It didn't have too bad a lineup. I mean, Zanster there was able to beat someone like Jim 2-1 to then advance on to the finals, where you had to play against Zest, and we kind of know how that would have gone out. So that was kind of a cool kick in the right direction for Zanster, I feel.
Zanster's had a couple of decent results in his history, and hopefully this one can be one that he can remember as well, as he's just a couple of games now away from qualifying for the Intel Stream Masters San Jose. Of course, the winner of this match will go up against puCK, and that will decide who will be our third place player from the open bracket number 1 here. Very close towards the bubble of the open bracket. Very close indeed.
Yep, well, here is Zanster, our first Zerg on stream, as he looks to try and advance on through this lower bracket. And as it's already been mentioned, the winner of this will go up against puCK. So from now on, from here on out, all Zanster has to do is actually beat a few Protoss, and then he'll be on his way into those group stages, which is, I mean, that would be great. That would be great for Zanster here, because that's a massive lineup of players.
Yeah, I remember Zanster at DreamHack Bucharest earlier this year. I was having a look to remind myself as well. He beat First and Patience on his way through to the top 16 of that tournament. A very good result for him, beating two very, very good Protoss players. puCK is another good Protoss player. I think he's a little bit low the standard of First and Patience, so if Zanster can bring that same form he's brought to in the past, this could be a winnable game. But, of course, at the same time, as Rotterdam's mentioned, puCK historically has had very good Protoss versus Zerg. Maybe it is a little bit alarming that he's coming into this tournament saying his matchups are all around feeling very similar to each other. But also that could be a bonus. I mean, maybe his Terran and his PvP are as good as his Protoss versus Zerg, but either way, this is going to come down to it in just a best of 3. There's the 3 maps that are going to be played, as you saw on the map view before: Overgrowth, King Sejong Station, and then, if need be, Nimbus. And it's going to be a cool series. I think it's going to be very close, though.
Yeah, I get the feel it's going to be close as well. I think that how these guys match up, I mean, if you think about puCK, who's been a very, very long-standing, high-performing American player in this scene, and then to Zanster, where Europe generally has kind of more depth, so maybe in the rankings of things, people like Zanster can stack up against maybe some of the higher-level Americans, then I think it's going to be pretty even as well.
puCK is definitely the more established player between the two.
Yes, I have to agree with that. I have to echo that. That's definitely true. Whenever you kind of think about the American scene nowadays with people like puCK at the top of things. I mean, he's been in Premier League 5 times across 2013, 2014. So he's a mainstay of this scene right now, is puCK.
Absolutely, and I'm sure 2015 will be a good year for him as well within the WCS, but as of course right now the focus is on the entire Extreme Masters. puCK has already competed at 2 of the events so far this season. Of course, the 2 prior events being in Shenzhen and Toronto. His 3rd event in a row here, hoping to make the group stages. Has made it through qualification previously, but we'll see. Zanster's first appearance here in the Intel Extreme Masters. Can he make it to group stage play? Big question.
Right, that's true. On Team Property now, I believe.
That's right.
Previously on Fnatic.
That's right. Joining a Swedish team there. It's been been around for the very beginning of time, and after departing against Fnatic, it makes sense. Zanster joining Team Property.
Yeah, been on there quite a while. That team been around quite a while now, as you say. As we now get into game number 1 in this best of 3, and have spawning up to the top right-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss representing IVD Gaming. It is puCK, 5-time WCS Premier player in America. And, I mean, again, stated himself as one of the top players in this region. Then down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Zerg, representing Team Property. It is Zanster, a guy taking 2nd place at a recent IESF, only losing out to Zest in the very final.
Wearing the jacket of IESF. As you can see there, he's got the Swedish flag and the 4 letters IESF just above. But this series right now, this for Zanster, is all about knowing exactly how puCK's going to play against you, because as the type of player that Zanster is, I don't know how much knowledge he's going to have of puCK as a player. A lot of the European players play in the European tournaments, they do their own European thing, and they don't really think too much about the American scene and the American players. So I think that Zanster's going to feel this game out from the very get-go. It's going to be very important to scout what exactly puCK is going to play, because puCK in the past has used a lot of different types of Warp Prism and Immortal type of pushes, which if you don't know is happening and don't know is coming, then the game can end very easily in favor of the Protoss. So it's going to definitely be important for Zanster to keep that at the front of his mind.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Clash of Regions overall, and this drone being sent out super early for Zanster is really kind of telltale of the idea of he needs to know what his opponent's doing. So at least he's already over here having a look around. And
at this point, it's all about, is he cannon rushing me or not? Can I go hatchery first or spawn and pull first? That's why you send the drone this early.
And it did its job. He sees the gateway, he saw at the front there was no hint of a forge or anything like that, no nexus down, so overall he knows what he's playing against for now.
Yeah, and this means that going up against a gateway expand here, there's no cannon rush available, so he's going to go 3 hatchery here. This can be good, but it also can be a little bit weak too. If we were to see Chronoboost into Stalkers or Zealots or Mothership Core, pressure can be put on in counteract to this. So with puCK moving in with his probe, he's going to find out this is going to be a 3-hatch build, but it is a reactionary 3-hatch coming out from Zanster. He's going to need to slap down that spawn and pull down. But more importantly, he's got to also think, when does he take his gas in this game? Because with the Cybercore almost done, Wargate research is starting before the spawn and pull has even been placed. So of course, aggression could easily follow this up from puCK. So how does Zanster manage this? Does he want to play mineral only and focus maybe on spines to help defend this third if an attack was to come? puCK is now seeing this info, sees 3 hatcheries, knows exactly what he's up against. Same time, drone delaying this Nexus, which is a huge part of this game, considering it's a 3-hatch opener.
Yeah, really slowing this down. So now, do you feel that puCK doesn't have many options but to apply some pressure?
Well, he's chrono boosting the Stalkers. I mean, he's already had to bank up money because the Nexus was delayed. He's going to put some pressure on. Not sure how much. Mothership Core and Stalker just by itself can do a lot of damage. So I'm going to be following closely in puCK's main base to see what he chooses and if he's going to try to challenge Zanster's heightened economy, that it definitely will be if this game goes on untouched.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, I mean, there are the knock-on effects from this being a reactionary.
There's a probe moving down already on the other side of the map, down the right-hand side. So just seeing this alone, and now Chronoboost in the Cybernetics core, he is going to be aggressive.
Slapping down another gas as well here for the potential of transition on later or just fueling gas units, like having a few more Stalkers out here at the very front. But already going to work on some of these drones, needs to keep those alive. A few Zerglings will pop in just a second to try and shoo this away. But again, without speed, he knows the delay on speed because he didn't see a gas going down when this third hatch was on the way. He knows how much time he has to be able to stick around with these kinds of units.
And just getting every little bit done here. If these units weren't here, drones would be made and the economy would be just out of control.
Yeah. So it's if not required, just to be able to make sure units are created, to make sure that the triple hatch play has been slowed down just a little bit.
And more importantly, just slow Zanster down in itself that he couldn't defend the follow-up here. The 3 gateways are down, as mentioned before. puCK, he's got to move his probe into position soon. Zergling speed is on its way. Zanster has eyes on his opponent. He sees 2 gateways at the front of the base. He sees 1 more at the back. He knows it's a total of 4 gateways. We will see Zerglings made in high numbers now.
Yeah, he's got to get those out. Speed's on the way, but he has to buy a time during that window by which to make sure that he isn't taking too much damage. He keeps losing 1 or 2 drones here and there.
Just all units now. It's all units. You don't need drones at this point because you're on 3 hatcheries. You're going to have so much lava that as long as you just push this back and then go back to drone production heavily, you're going to be good. And there will be dedication from puCK to this attack. It's not a feint. It's real. So I do like Zanster's position. There's so many Zerglings.
Yeah, right now it's a lot of Stalkers as well. No Zealots to be able to really fend this off too much. The next few rounds might have to be that, because if the Stalkers get caught by just Speedlings alone...
He's going to fall back to Sentry production soon. This is not going to work. You probably even have to recall out.
Yeah, this is looking a little bit scary, that's for sure. That pylon at the front as well, I'm not even sure how well that's going to work out. All of these Zerglings, it's so many Zerglings he's going to have at this point.
More Zealots are being made here by puCK. He's brought in 2. Is he going to continue to warp in more down to this location? Another 2 get warped in.
Speed's about to finish here. The wraparound could be brutal if he's not careful. There's Speed now finished. He's going to have to be very, very, very careful about his positioning with his army.
I feel that you have to recall soon. Put a bit of more pressure on and recall, and then just slow the game down.
I mean, he's forced out a lot of Zerglings, right? So it slowed down drone production. He was making probes behind it, but here comes the wraparound. He's on top of those Stalkers on the right-hand side. A lot of the Zerglings just got into combat with the Zealots anyway, and the majority of this does force the recall out there. Very important.
And drone production already on. I think that puCK may have come out on top of this because the difference between the workers was 10 at the point he recalled out, which is a pretty big difference between the both of them. And I feel here that puCK had plans to, escape a long time ago here. And at the moment, this is going to be a lot of drones, though, for the time being.
He's letting a few of these Zerglings in, though. I'm kind of surprised by that. And it says just throw this force field down on the ramp, making sure they would be isolated in here. So doesn't look to commit any more there, does Zanster. He already had that Roach Warrior down just in case that was to continue on. But overall, he hasn't really had to use it. Layer on the way, teching up.
Yeah, I think that puCK's in pretty decent shape now. He's thrown down a robotics facility, which is a very interesting tech choice here. You'd expect maybe a Forge or something to come down. He's probably going to start a mortal production, and I'm wondering if this third is even real. I mean, maybe it is just going to be there, but what he could easily do, with the Twilight Council in, I guess it does make more sense, but what he could easily do is try to squeeze out, maybe a Warp Prism, maybe try to do something while his opponent's droning, but the game will move on. puCK will keep this third.
Well, at least Zanster now also sees that third base. He has all these Lings positioned to maybe go for a little bit of an attack at some point, but with the army positioning how it is, it's going to be difficult to really find a good edge. So back to drones, making sure that he can keep himself well and truly in this economically across these 3 bases.
Yeah, and I love this Zerglings in the middle here are just keeping tabs of the game, because he's droning behind all of this pretty much, and then he's just waiting to see if his opponent moves out again with these Zerglings, and can also threaten counterattacks and so on. Roach speed is on the way as well. There's quite a few Roaches now. I imagine the Hydralisk Den's going to be a choice of strategy soon. I mean, obviously Hydralisk fantastic against gateway units here, and that is what we're seeing from puCK. We have a Warp Prism that can harass, but it is pure gateway units. For the time being, at least.
But during all that, where do we have Evolution Chambers in play? Is he not going to dedicate to any?
He hasn't done that yet, no. He may go for some soon, but not yet.
He's going to get that 4th base down at the bottom right as well, whilst he has been able to spot the Warp Prism, so that's a nice start for him. He can at least reposition himself, but while seeing that Warp Prism, it keeps him on his side of the map, at least, if he wants to try and deal with that later on. So for puCK, establishing the 3rd base, pretty much been a success.
Yep, it's a success. He's now going up to Stalker and Immortal production overall, which is a very powerful composition of units against non-Hydralisk units, which we see. But it is the Spire coming into play. We'll see if that actually does actively come to play here. We are going to see puCK harass a little bit. With this Warp Prism, he's going to try, but there are units already waiting, and I do like Zanster's position.
Zanster going into melee upgrades here as well, so looking to play extra Lings into all of this, and then transition to really high-tech later on, I guess.
Yeah, he could go Ling Mutalisk here, he could go Ling Corruptor style. It depends on what his opponent's up to, because he hasn't really seen any new information to help develop his own composition, but he doesn't want to play on Roaches alone. Roaches alone aren't that good, so...
Oh, gets a few of them caught, so Playing on roaches alone doesn't really need to do that. He's going to lose a few of them at the front. Meanwhile, we have that drop in the main base as well. Attempting to do something, but not really doing anything. At least he sees the double upgrades going.
Yeah,
so.
he killed a queen in the main base. We just slowed down the production a little bit, but that's about it.
And that Spire's about to finish up here, so doesn't really have too much gas in the bank to go for like a big Mutalisk switch, maybe 6 or 7 if he was to try and do something like that, which can start doing some harassment. Again, it is against only a Robo and Blink.
puCK's composition is to win the game soon. There's no long game in this.
Yeah, true.
There's no big upgrades. He only has +1 attack. There's no Colossus. There's nothing at this point. With this army, he needs to deal damage soon. He's building a Templar Archives, which can help a lot later on, but right now he's stuck in a position where if he sits home and defends, Zanster rolls over the game. He must do some damage with these units.
And also, it's going to be a lot on force fields, because if it's a huge Zergling composition, that's not the most amazing army to fight against Zerglings. I mean, it's just a lot of Stalkers with a few sentries sprinkled in, not that many Zealots at all. So he's got to be very, very careful about how he moves out into the middle of the map against this very high mobile army of Zanster.
That's right. Zanster's got a great army, good upgrades. He can go to 2-2 soon. He can start to think about the Infestation Pit as a follow-up tech soon to either go into Infestors, to go to Swarm Host, to go up towards Hive. Multiple different avenues to go. But Mutalisk's going to come harass this main base.
And there's 6 more on the way as well, so as those numbers keep rising, it gets all the more irritating to defend across these 3 locations. But you already have some Stalkers in position at the main base, which is nice.
And I think this is really kind of news that puCK will want to push out with soon. That's investment in Mutalisk, which haven't done anything in the game, and he may feel that he has the right to push with this type of information.
Whoop, Zergling's going to go for the 3rd base, and also he sees his force on the right, so he has to deal with that and push that away, but the force on the 3rd is doing a lot of damage, whilst everything is preoccupied on the right-hand side, so this is a really nice little double-pronged attack here from Zanster.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Depends how many probes Zanster can get here. That's the most important part.
That's a good point. How many did he get overall?
Only 5 or 6 so far. He's starting to pick up a couple more, though, as he's focusing them down.
Yeah, it wasn't as many as I thought, basically, in that first starting moments of that fight.
But he got it towards the end there.
Yeah, and at least he, once again, he buys himself more time to move on to 2-2 and make sure that he's not taking damage back at home, but still, he has to be careful.
This army in the middle of the map here, more Archons are going to be made. Love the mobility choice of Zanster's army, just running around, causing havoc everywhere, really keeping puCK defending more than anything in this game.
Yeah, still looking to do big damage at this 3rd base, and the majority of the army is preoccupied. He's actually focusing down the Nexus. He's doing a lot of damage to that. There's Roaches trying to hold this force back, and that Nexus is getting dangerously low. There's a few Stalkers there, all taking the brunt of this fire, though, and I think he might just want to flee out, but he's getting that Nexus very low, gets it in the end. It has to just get on out of here after getting a few high Templar kills. That's a nice pickup as well.
A huge pickup there. And the Mutalisk count continues to grow, supported by a lot of units on the ground. Zerglings, Roaches with great upgrades here, as we see. A difficult position for puCK to be in upon losing that. He has to attack now. He's on 2 bases currently. He's got a decent force. He didn't really lose anything in that. And now it's time to see if Zanster can rebuild an army fast enough to defend this push.
He's really giving him the runaround as Zanster has taken down that 3rd base. Now this army is on creep. He sees the positioning of it. The Mutalisks, they're actually going to come back here and try and defend. No, yes, he is. Back and forth, a little bit indecisive about that.
Hard to engage into this. Good position for force fields. Only a few force fields, though. There's not that many sentries.
It's true. Zanster now maxed out, though. So as he trades away against all of this, he still has some money going.
If puCK loses this army, the game is over. With the limited resources that he has and no Mothership Core to retreat, he cannot lose this army. He's dealing a lot of damage, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if Zanster kills it all off.
He needs to make sure he engages on a good angle here. Force fields can cut up some of this. He tries to cut off a lot of those Zerglings on the right-hand side. Cuts off some of the drones as well as the Roaches as well.
Brilliant force fields.
Yeah, he did a lot of damage to those Mutalisks before anything on the ground could really get on top of this army. Guardian Shield during that was really important to soak up some of the damage from the Mutas.
Brilliant there, but 12 Hydros on the way. So counter damage has been dealt here by puCK. After losing his 3rd Nexus, he kills the 3rd and 4th Pantry of the Zerg. And at the same time, Zanster, who's building up quite a decent army now to defeat that army, no longer is interested in doing that. He wants to deal more damage to his opponent's economy. With these Mutalisks, he sent them on the other side of the map, but puCK is defending very, very well and has also escaped with the majority of his army. This game looked great for Zanster a few minutes ago, but wasn't quite ready to build up that army in time. And now puCK is taking control of this game again.
And he really wants to catch some of these Mutalisks. Gets a volley off, but doesn't kill too much at all. He sees them with his observer, so he knows exactly where back and forth these Mutalisks are going to go. There's only 16 of them at this point.
Yeah.
And puCK's army is growing a little bit because he has that third base now back up and running. His economy is back online.
Yeah, it is, and he's building up, and he has a higher supply than his opponent. He'll look to fight again soon, I would imagine. There's no really timing that he needs to hit, it's just max out and go. You've got a good army, your opponent's weak, he's struggling to rebuild himself. Seems like a perfect time to me.
Clearing up some of this creep as well, just any little advantage puCK can give himself whilst Zanster's just sat on the high ground, basically waiting for his opponent to move up, because force fields are still pretty important in these fights. Doesn't really want to be taking the brunt of this force all in one, but as long as the Stalker control is on point, he could get really, really effective trades.
Overall, I think puCK's army control in this game has been very good, utilizing very few units to get maximum amounts of damage.
Yeah, blinking back some of those Stalkers up front, realizing that they would end up taking some damage anyway, almost preemptively in essence there, as he decides not to go up the ramp, just clearing up that creep on the left-hand side, making it a little bit harder for Zanster to anticipate where his opponent's going to be coming from.
Yeah, and all the time while building up money. He's on 200 supply. He can re-expand, take a fourth base while putting this pressure on, while investing into that +3 attack. So far, so good.
So many Stalkers, so many, and if the blink control is on form, then it's going to be nice. And a really beautiful concave setup here, though, for Zanster to be able to greet him, but that's the beauty of clearing up all this creep spread. He left him in the dark.
He's got great position here.
Exactly. He was able to force this thanks to cutting down the vision of Zanster, and now, what concave for Zanster? It just doesn't exist. The force fields are cutting off a lot of this as well. If he just blinks back where he needs to, he's going to be able to take a great trade. He has some money in the bank. Brilliant moves here by puCK.
Perfect fight here from puCK. Great army movement, great force fields, and he's going to walk over this army. He's got so many units dealing damage compared to Zanster, who's struggling and falling behind his supply as faster.
Yeah,
as fast as can be.
Drones come off the line, trying to push this away, and unfortunately he has. Even if he were able to kill off every single Stalker here, he's losing far, far more in the end. It's not looking pretty for Zanster in the first game. Even a Dark Shrine behind this as well. GG, well played. Comes out from Zanster as puCK takes game number 1.
Yes, he does. One step closer to challenging for the 3rd place position in this open bracket. Now just one more game away from defeating Zanster and then going up in that Protoss versus Protoss game against puCK, where he could challenge for that. And now Zanster, the European player, coming over for this in a lot of trouble. Hasn't had the best tournament so far, unfortunately. Started off earlier today against the Korean who advanced through Super, losing 0-2, but then came back against Caliber 2-1 to win that one, and now plays his 3rd Protoss of the day and is facing elimination.
Looking good for puCK so far. Looking good for that game. As again, you know, I want to come back to what I was saying before about just playing that out very, very calmly at the end, playing out to the point where his positioning was good. We already saw him force that position down to the bottom right and cut off with force fields. He could have been in a really sticky situation down there by the 4th base, but it's the final engagement where he forced this position basically because Zanster had no vision up to that top left-hand corner.
Yeah, as you can see, these are perfect force fields at this point that he continued to take excellent fights with. The first 2 really zoned out the Zerg, and then the 4 kept them back. And at this point, as a Zerg, you're not meant to ever be in this position. It's as simple as that. You're never ever meant to fight from this position. You're meant to get a force around, but puCK moving around with his army, found himself in good position. And at this point, the game was already over. He's not really caring about his army control anymore. And as you can see, every unit slaughtered incredibly fast.
It's a really good point that you actually bring up with the momentum, I guess, behind the force fields is what I want to say, because you don't have to throw down a whole line of force fields cutting off an entire choke point to make a Zerg fearful. All you have to do is narrow that choke point, and you can do that preemptively in a lot of situations to make sure that they'll never ever come up. And that's something that puCK did very, very nicely there to start that engagement off. And Zanster just had no answer.
Felt like, despite this game being in favor of puCK here, I really felt that Zanster played pretty well, actually. His army movement was always pretty good. I loved the pick off of the 3rd Nexus. He was very close to having an army that could deal with this. I wonder if the investment into the Zergling upgrade was the best thing to do in this case. Maybe not. Maybe it would have been better if he'd gone for the Roach upgrades and focused on the Roaches and Hydras a little bit more, because at the end of the day, what did Zerglings really do for them in this game? There was Archons in the play. It's very difficult against so many Stalkers. I mean, it's not a bad thing that he did go for them, but I really think give him 30 more seconds in that game as puCK pushes out and he actually defends and he wins the game.
Yeah, but potentially. I think it's a good point that you bring up with the upgrades, though, because in the end, for me, melee upgrades are designed for two purposes, really. One, you get that +1 melee to try and put on pressure to a third when it's going down, and then trying to force the denial then. Or two, very, very long game focus, very kind of tech-heavy. And again, there was the mobility persuasion there that he was trying to go for. But all in all, what was his combination? What was his composition during the mid-game of that? It was Roach Hydra. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get into game number 2. As puCK currently leads 1-0 here. Zanster looking to come back on things as we have King Sage on the station, our next map. And it is up to the top left-hand corner, our blue Protoss representing IVD Gaming. It is puCK, currently 1 game up here. Looking to advance on to play against puCK, which will be interesting. And spotting down at the bottom right-hand corner, we have our Zerg. In the red, representing Team Property, it is Zanster.
So depending on how much information Zanster knew about puCK and, you know, before this tournament started, he can start to feel out his opponent now anyway. You know, likes to put pressure on, plays with this kind of very gateway-heavy army. He's not really playing to an older, more defensive playstyle, maybe not favoring Stargate play as much, and you can start to notice that your opponent being a gateway, more centric player, this can end games really fast, or can actually win you games really fast, because usually when a Protoss plays this way, they're very aggressive, and if you could deal with these aggressive pushes, then you're either just going to die and the game ends, or you're actually going to clear it up and find yourself in a leading position, which for the majority of the time you can be quite comfortable in, to be honest. So we'll see how much Zanster picks up from that first game that he can bring and develop into the second one.
Well, noticeably, we have no drone scout going out just yet, so he may just go for a hatchery and then just go triple hatch anyway, based off what he saw in the previous game.
It is a risk to do, but that's what it looks like he could be already building from game to game here, is that, okay, this guy's a kind of gateway type of player. Maybe I already knew that beforehand, and now it's guaranteed that that he's going to play at this, and I know that, so I can go ahead and afford to do this. I think it's a very risky thing to do 3 hatch, but definitely could do it.
Probe's moving on out now, as they have a little bit of a look around at the other side of the map. And again, because if it is... Oh, actually, he does go for a spawning pool here. So at least this probe will get confirmation that it's not exactly the greediest of greedy openers here. No,
so just a regular hatchery first here. He's going to be wanting to get that Zergling speed pretty fast in this game anyway, once he figures out that this is... He may have already figured it out, whether this probe has moved out. With the 2 drones here, he hasn't figured it out, because he's saying that this could still be a cannon rush. But in a couple of seconds, when the Overlord popes over and actually sees the Cybercores there, he'll know. And this is where he'll start to put a plan together. Whether he wants to take a fast third or not, may be difficult to do.
Yeah, I think it's better being safe than sorry as Zanster there, because it's still a good map for a cannon rush. We see a lot of cannon rushes actually on this map at that natural, behind the mineral line, even in front of the mineral line sometimes. To really put on the pressure against the Zerg, but Zanster is going to be nice and safe here.
puCK is trying to kill this Overlord, by the way. He's trying to push into his gateway to rush out this Stalker. With this Overlord moving all the way to the back here, he's trying to pick it off.
And he looks like he may end up getting this.
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah, that's really nice start here for him. And that's not exactly something that Zanster was really expecting.
Man. Yeah, this sucks. You very rarely have a Stalker out as a Protoss player at this stage of the game. So this is, and especially with Chrono Boost, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like the Mothership Core's the first thing you get out, usually, and he will lose that Overlord.
Well, don't see that too often. There's a probe on the other side of things, 2 Zerglings, but...
And the most frustrating part about losing the Overlord is not the initial supply cap that he's going to be facing now, it's the lack of information that he can gather in the mid-game.
Yeah.
As a Zerg player trying to play reactionary, you want to be able to send in the Overlords from multiple directions to know whether it is a Twilight Counter early for some kind of funky Blink or DT build, whether you're going to be pushed by an Immortal, or whether it's going to be a regular fast expansion, or even a Stargate play. This lack of information is going to be pretty frustrating for him to deal with. He's in the dark, pretty much.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I mean, if we only look back at game number 1, the Overlord that was going into the main was the one that spotted the extra gateway, which is all important when you're going up against like a 4 gateway play compared to a 3 gateway play, which is a bit more stand.
Well, he sees 3, but what if it was 4?
Yeah, exactly.
Because in the previous game, it was 4 from the same information, and it's exactly the same Stalker and Mothership Core here. He doesn't know. So it's very difficult to build. I mean, it's like, do I want to preemptively build Zerglings very shortly, like I did in the previous game for this type of 4 gateway attack, or do I run the risk and build drones? So it is a pretty sticky situation to be in. But he's trying to figure it out. He's poking up to the top of the ramp, and he's like, all right, well, What more information can I get? These gateways are finishing up. No more information. Building 6 slings for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Nothing's
no
coming.
reason in this game to build 6 slings here.
Especially with the ones he already has out. I mean, it's way overkill, and puCK is really
It's just because he
got away
doesn't
with
know,
this.
and that's all down to that Overlord. He's moving his
Yeah,
Zerglings
yeah.
around the left-hand side, by the way, as well, trying to find any pylons or stuff, but the third base is down, so it's going to be a regular third base play. If any more units get built, they would have to kill the Nexus.
Yeah, and now those Zerglings, some of them are actually even moving over. Are they going to get full confirmation, or is he just going to poke at the wall? Because they're just sat there for now.
Yeah, he's going to poke at the wall and see 2 sentries, 2 stalkers. Okay, this is not going to be an aggression, and already building 12 drones and moving on to the next stage here. He knows he's not about to be attacked anytime soon, and will probably decide to go up towards the lair with his next 100 gas to push himself towards road speed, Hydralisk Den, and you name it, you know what. He knows that the third Nexus is there, knows he's not going to be attacked, but also knows that the way that this game is played out has definitely favored puCK for the first 8 minutes of this game.
Yeah, and it's just going to be Zerglings now positioning themselves on the left and the right, trying to keep eyes on things, because unfortunately for him, it doesn't feel like he can really push this third base and do too much against it.
No.
So he's going to have to play, you know, his drones greedy himself at the back of this. A few more Zerglings in production here, though.
This is to catch or just to threaten a large unit count that we don't see any easy movements out. For example, if puCK moved across the map now while his opponent was droning, he could maybe kill the third and then recall out. 6 additional links just kind of buffers that and gives a little bit more padding to the Zerg defense.
Blinker +1 on the way for puCK behind all of this, and he just goes into making 3 probes at a time, which is really going to rocket up his economy from here on out.
Yeah.
And once Blink is done as well, it's going to make his army very difficult to actually even fight straight up at this point. So
Not too sure what army composition Zanster will go for, though. Is this Hydralisk or is this Aspire? It could be Mueller's play.
it could be with all the gases being taken like this at this point. But
It definitely is either. I'm not sure which one.
I'm feeling Hydras. Considering what we saw in the previous game. Debatable. I mean, he could just be freeing up and just going mass roaches and then just with that auxiliary constitution on the way. But there's the Hydralisk Den now.
Yep, so he's chosen the Hydralisk Den here, drawn up very heavily, and now at this point he's just looking to build a huge Roach Hydra army, and he will, if he doesn't build Evolution Chambers, it does start to hurt him. I wonder if he will start to throw them down soon. It's not a big problem to have upgrades really early on, as long as you just have a lot of Hydras, because they're so good. It's just they're not out already yet, but he's not too far away from getting them.
Hydras benefit really nicely from ranged upgrades, especially compared to Roaches overall, because they attack so fast. But in the end,
puCK is going to attack down this side, and this is a great attack pathway here. No creep, rocks are down, force fields are going to be great, and the only units that can challenge this effectively are Hydralisk with Hydra range, but they're not out yet. This is only Ling and Roach.
Yeah, he spots a lot of it though over here. Is the Mothership call with this? Because if
Yes.
Yeah, he needs the opportunity to be able to recall out. There's no way he can get stranded in here during all of this. I mean, there's Hydras on the way now, being in production. It's going to have a lot of firepower, a lot of meat behind that.
Yeah, the more Hydras that come in, the less likely this works for puCK.
Yeah. And he can actually come in from both sides during this. Depends on the force fields, of course. If he lands them on the ramp well and kind of divides and conquers, maybe it'll work out. But still, it's only there's not too much reinforcement. There's this one pylon down to the south here with this army as well, as that one falls in the north.
I think Zanster's fine.
Yeah, he should be. Again, force fields can work miracles.
The thing is, though, puCK at the end of the day doesn't necessarily need to do damage, but he's not slowing Zanster's economy down. Zanster already achieved his economy that he wanted before this attack happened. He's building an army up to defend this, and if it doesn't happen, then he attacks on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
Hydralisk speed is on the way, and you must get Colossus out by this point, or a huge critical amount of units. In a moment, Zanster's going to have enough of this, and will probably attack down. I wonder if he's going to try and split some units up to try to come from the other side as well. A little bit difficult with a lack of creep spread, but
with the timing of the Robo facility and the fact that there isn't even a Robo Bay down just yet, it just goes down now. He needs to almost sit around there for a while. Buy time, make it seem like he's the one attacking, because he needs to get time for that AoE to come out. So he's got to sit around here for a little bit longer, but that's almost maxed out.
He's got to be careful. If he misses the force fields here, this is very dangerous. Of course, he can recall out, but it could get targeted down here. And look at this. Zanster's going to start to split up his army. He's going to attack from 2 sides here. The focus must be the Mothership core. That is the ultimate jackpot, get all the money, go to Vegas kind of move. Just If he gets that Mothership core, he kills everything, the game ends. It is so important not to mess this up.
Moving up the ramp there just a little bit. Force fields have been thrown down.
Just recall. This is a huge mistake if he doesn't recall out from this position.
It's gonna be
this
very,
could be
very careful.
so bad.
I mean, this wave of force fields are basically all he has. He has maybe 2 or 3 more. Well, actually, no, he has a few more than that. I do apologize. But if he can throw them down the force fields on the ramp, he does split off some of that, but he has to get out of there. There's no way you want to lose that Mothership core.
But the first Colossus has not started yet. He's decided to squeeze out a Warp Prism first. And now is an opportunity here for Zanster to do a lot of damage, stop building any units that take gas, and get ready for a huge switch to probably Mutalisk at this point.
I guess he felt that he didn't have enough time to buy with the army to get his AoE out, so tries to go for a Warp Prism to buy even more time here, I guess. But Zanster, look where his army positioning is. Does he even bring that back?
If
I don't think
puCK
so.
kills the 4th hatchery while defending and building up a huge Stalker count with +3 attack, I think he might be in good shape. But Zanster's army is so very big. There's no Colossus. There's minimal amounts of force fields. Only 1 wave, I would imagine.
And the thing is that even when this Colossus pops out, yes, he has 1 Colossus, but it still doesn't have Thermal Lance, so those Hydralisks are going to have exactly the same range as it. So Force Fields are going to have to be really important. Zoning out is going to have to be important. Force Fields so far doing their job.
And a huge Warp in Zealots on the other side of the map. puCK is defending while launching this counterattack from that Warp Prism. It's exactly what he needs to do.
He's going to lose a bit of his production up to that north, though, if those gateways end up falling. But again, it's all about the Colossus. If that can stay alive, if he can get those numbers up just a little bit further, Force Fields will hit and hit the mark, really.
2 more sentries, needs more force fields.
Yeah, needs more everything. But at the same time, you know, he's held off a lot of these Hydralisks here. The Zealots have done quite a bit of damage.
He's defending like a boss at this point. This is an excellent play from puCK. He jumps forward with his Stalkers. He's got so many Stalkers left over, and with +3 attack on the way, I wonder if the Mutalisk can do the damage, because we did see quite a few drones go down here, and the gas income is not high enough for Zanster against a 3-base Protoss to keep his Mutalisk count higher than the Stalker count can deflect them. You need 4 bases, if not 5, to build such a high count here.
Yeah, this is going to get tricky here for Zanster. puCK right now, he has his Stalkers in position to be able to deal with that. He didn't really take any economical damage himself during those assaults whilst he was defending. So puCK...
And the Warp Prism's still there. It's still warping in Zealots, and it's on the 4th base right now. So puCK continues to defend. The Warp Prism was not found. And this is really good play from puCK. Very impressive game here.
And the Zealots are even drawing back the Mutalisks that have to clean them up. They're going to work on this 4th hatch. They won't get it in the end, but at least it buys even more time for the cannons to finish up, for him to do whatever he wants.
The Templar Archive says goodbye to Mutalisk at this point. At this low supply, low economy type of game, couple of Archons, you just don't have the numbers to take them on. And he can easily add them into his army with a push out here. And I feel that Zanster may not be able to deal with a push out with +3 attack, which could come soon. And he may have to resort into kind of a base trade game here. Where he would require to build spines all in his main or natural and try to destroy everything that Protoss have behind. But that can be cannons everywhere, that can be storms randomly placed.
Yeah, it really feels like Zanster here at this point is looking for that beautiful critical mass of Mutalisks where almost, as long as you're controlling it nicely, nothing rivals it. He actually decides to go for combat against a small pocket of these Stalkers, but the Stalkers are still doing a lot of damage, especially with the Photon Overcharge as well. And an extra pocket of Stalkers tried to go in from the left-hand side, but the Zerglings at the 3rd base didn't get too much done either. So Zanster, unfortunately for him, isn't finding the weaknesses he wants to find.
And puCK such a large supply, he can attack and defend at the same time. And now Zanster cannot counterattack, he cannot base trade, he must engage this army full on out. And this is his only option. Does he have enough Zerglings, Roaches, and Hydralisks to kill the Stalkers? Then the Mutalisks can help, but the Mutalisks are no longer a threat in this game. Only 11 from the original 27, I think it was, in this game. It's back to a Ling Roach Hydra game, which means it's back to a Sentry Stalker, force-filled with a couple of Colossus support game, just like we saw a few minutes ago, where puCK already won this battle in this game already.
Yeah, that 4th hatchery, all it needed was a little bit of a flick in the right direction, and he did kill it off so fast with that main army. Mutalisks go into the mineral line again, trying to draw back a little bit of the damage from puCK's main army, but overall, I mean, puCK's main army is moving into attack mode. The Guardian Shield goes up, he's engaging from both sides here is Zanster, but at the same time, a few of the Force Fields did cordon off some of the units down to the bottom right. There's a lot of Stalkers here now as well. Despite the Colossi being on top of, still a lot of Stalkers to be able to kind of rein this in.
Great flank in position, but simply not enough power units coming out from Zanster. He's got weak upgrades. Remember, he had no evolution chambers in this game. He's on basic layer type units, just Ling and Roach with a few Hydralisks in port. He hasn't had the income to build what he wants. He hasn't had the upgrades that he needs to support this army. puCK is at +3 attack. He had 2 Colossus, an overwhelming amount of Stalkers, and puCK is pushing himself closer and closer to that game versus Evil Genius's huck to decide which player will move on in 3rd place in this open bracket to qualify and play at the main event in the Intel Extreme Masters San Jose.
Yeah, the Stalkers with Blink just have so much power and potency behind them, whereas, unfortunately, the Mutalisks have to buy this time somehow, some way.
Well,
and they constantly
buying
chase.
time to what? He needs a new base. He needs new money.
Yeah, he needs a lot of things.
He's running out of resources in his main base. He needs to have, at least to fight this army, 20 Hydralisks, at least. Currently, he's only at 6, going up to 11. He's missing 20, still more. Like, he's so far behind in that regard to actually have an army to take this on. Zerglings are useless in this game.
Yeah,
They
they're
cannot
not
do
gonna
anything
much.
but Archons, Zealots with +3 attack, and a shield upgrade, Blink Stalkers. You need overwhelming amounts of Hydralisks.
Well, he's moving into assault mode once again, as all he has to do is blink back the front lines. The Zerglings won't do too much, as you say. One Archon falls very, very rapidly. He has to come from the left-hand side with the Zerglings there, which for most part is a good engagement here from the Zerg, but there are so many Stalkers here that as long as they just keep blinking back,
Yep.
he'll be okay with that assault mode.
Yeah, very minimal amounts of resources and money here for Zanster, but he's been able to push this back one last time. And he's building up. The Roach count at 18. Hydralisk now at 14. So it is rising up. He is spending his money. He's kind of running a little bit out of minerals, as we can see. Got a lot of gas, but not a lot of minerals. If he establishes his base on the right-hand side and starts mining from it, the game can turn around.
Yeah, and with the Mutalisk gone now, what really keeps him in that defensive posture? Not too much. So as long as he just keeps his army kind of poised along the 4th base location,
Yep.
He should be fine there, should puCK.
The Hydralisk count keeps on rising. A 4th base cancelled at this point.
Nice.
Zanster re-expands, is getting more and more money, and he's pushed puCK back from doing the same thing. He's started to get traction back in this game. He's now taken a 20 supplier lead and pushing that and pushing that. puCK needs a new base. To be honest, he actually needs to be adding in Colossus to this type of army composition, but
Yeah.
he is low on resources himself. It's very difficult to afford the right amount of units when you're trying to build a lot of sentries, trying to build a lot of Colossus. But he's hoping this overwhelming Stalker count can work well for him. He's going to have to try to take a fight like he did in the previous game with the force fields and so on. The Hydralisk count's now at 29. Like, he's made it now.
Yeah, exactly.
He had, what, 10 before, 6 before? Now he's at 30. And this is the type of number that can really wreck these Stalkers.
Yeah, and the Zealots that were trying to go over to this 4th base really haven't done much at all. So that was pretty much a sacrifice there for puCK when every unit is very, very valuable.
I mean, look at this army movement. Zanster goes to challenge the re-expansion of puCK. Well, puCK is kind of killing off a hatchery that doesn't have many resources.
Yeah.
Weird army movement from both here. But can puCK find position more so than anything else?
Well, he needs to move away from this location. There's a lot of force field potential here in these sentries.
He has to use these well.
Ooh, careful, and
Got to cut up the Hydralisk and bite-size this. He can't combat 30 Hydralisk, but he can do 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, or 10, 10, 10. Like, he's got to do it this type of way.
definitely looking to take a small engagement
that's
here.
nice.
Cut some things up, as you say, bite-sized chunks. Has to blink on back there as well. Really doesn't want to lose his sentries. That's the very, very important
Here's a good
thing.
position too.
He just keeps kind of chunking it down. And look
Yeah.
at the supplies now.
Yeah, really good. And that's exactly what he needs to do with this army. And he's trying to add on Colossus again. If he gets up to 2, 3 Colossus, this game is going to be so difficult because then you do need to have Corruptors or something that can deal with it. We saw Zanster struggle with this problem earlier on. If puCK reestablishes that, then that is where the game is really difficult
Look
to
at this,
hold on
Sean.
to.
Here come the drones with this army as well, so he thinks it's all or nothing at this point.
Well, I think he just needs to be on the high ground. This is I'm not sure if this fight's good to take. Well, actually, yes, it is. With those type of force
Yeah,
fields,
they're
this
good.
is okay.
They are good. One Colossus enters the fray as well, even to just add on a little bit of damage. And whilst all of this is going on, there's a lot of Stalkers firing. Whilst not that many Roaches and Hydralisks firing, they slowly wiggle their way around below those
you
force
can
fields.
force field this ramp again and then just
Yeah.
cut it up. A Colossus and a second one on
Lovely.
its way. Is this MC playing StarCraft 2 on there, or is this puCK?
Ooh, GG. That's a force field sandwich. Gets some of those extra kills as puCK takes the series 2-0 and moves on to play against puCK in that final game to decide who moves on to the group stages.
That's right. Gummy Ho is first place in the open bracket. Super is second place. And now it's all about who takes third place. huck or puCK in a Protoss versus Protoss. It's going to be our next game on the stage, of course. And unfortunately, Zanster has to say goodbye here in the open bracket as he's been eliminated. But puCK lives on, just one more game, and neither one of these will go through.
Yeah, I think this bracket particularly has worked out kind of how we expected it to, with the two Koreans looking very, very good. And then with puCK and huCK actually fighting out for that third spot, because we had some people dropping out of certain locations. So now
That's right.
they get the opportunity to fight in.
Yeah, I agree. This bracket was definitely about first place and second place going to Gumiho and Super, and then a challenge between the rest of them to fight for this third place, which is going to be very important here. You know, the difference between losing in the open bracket and qualifying for group stages is huge, because you not only get another day to play tomorrow, and as an aspiring pro gamer, as a pro gamer, you want to go the distance in every type of event. You want to go as far as you can, and of course, one more step. You get to play on stage, you get to play in San Jose in front of all these fans that are going to turn up in the stadium. It's a dream come true for a lot of players to play at these type of events, and
True.
one of these will go. Unfortunately, one is going to be eliminated here. It's going to be pretty difficult to take for sure.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget as well, there's prize money, even WCS points for the 2015 system coming along, which has already distributed some points in things like the Hot 6 Cup, for example.
That's right, Marine King's at the top, man.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but he's at the top right now.
Marine King 2015 BlizzCon champion.
There you go. It could be a thing, somehow, some way. All right, so I think we're pretty much done here. Without further ado, let's send it over to Paul with our winner, puCK.
Yes, thank you, James. Yes, over on the winner's couch. Only the winners get to sit over here. So you've done well, puCK, because you've got to the winner's couch. How you doing?
I won a set.
You want a set? That's good. It's a good start.
I get to sit down on this nice couch I've been wanting to sit on all day.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's right. You get a rest now. Only a short rest, though, because
Yeah,
you've got to play again in a minute.
I got some Red Bull, so it'll wake me up.
You're
a
all
little bit.
good. You're all set. Good. Talk to us about the game. I mean, how do you approach a game like this? This kid's been on fire recently, and he's done really well. He's started to show his true colours, even though he left Fnatic, of course. Second in the IESF World Championship recently in November as well. So he's got a bit of a... He's starting to make a mark, but you've been doing that yourself over here in North America as well.
Yeah, I did really good at the end of spring semester and beginning of the summer, and then I kind of fell off a little bit, but I'm hoping that 2015 will be my best year and possibly my second to final year.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, time marches on, doesn't it? I mean, you're 24 now? I
Yeah,
think 24 now? I didn't want to say that too loud, you know, because 24 is no age, really. But in StarCraft terms, there's a lot of young kids coming up, isn't there? You've got to start thinking about, is 2015 make or break year for puCK?
basically. I mean, if I don't make it well next year, I'll still play 2016, but it won't necessarily be really try hard. It'll just, if I qualify for something and I have the time, I'll go for it. But I'll actually probably stream more in 2016 because less tournaments for me, and I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's talk about the match. Game one.
I don't know. I haven't really played that many PvZs lately because of the Dream Pool, so I've kind of just been doing like troll builds with like Mass Warp Prisms and Colossus
Don't tell anyone,
drops.
don't. No troll builds here, no troll builds.
But now that I'm doing like some serious builds, I feel pretty good, and I don't feel like I'm playing that bad. Like I feel like I could be playing a little bit better, but I still feel like I'm playing pretty good. So.
Okay, and again on map 2, a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult.
I felt like I played pretty good that game too. Like I was happy with myself that second game quite a bit. So.
Okay, moving on. It's puCK v huCK next.
Yeah.
I always like this one because the commentators get tripped up.
Yeah. I always wonder what the Koreans think when they hear puCK and huCK at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder what they think. So what do you think of the old man? He's still got it, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Still a difficult player.
Yeah. I've been struggling versus huCK the past few months, but before that I was doing pretty well. But it's hard to say. He beats me more in tournaments than I do, but I still do fairly well against him. So.
I've got a trick if you're interested.
Okay, what's that?
Play Terran.
That is very true. All I have to do is make Widow Mines and drop them into space, and he'll probably just leave. But
Yeah, you'll probably GG out.
yeah.
Doesn't like them at all. Apparently, so I've heard. Rumour. So one game away, and you get a shot at San Jose in terms of the group stages, and could end up then playing in a huge stadium in North America. That's got to be something worth fighting for in the next match.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are you going to do?
What
What are you going to do?
am I gonna do?
Yeah, against huCK.
Against Huck?
He's not listening right now.
Well, my name's longer than his name, so I must be better.
That's good maths. I like
Yeah.
that. That's letter maths of some kind.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So what are you doing after this? What are you doing after San Jose? You breaking now? Are you going to have some time off?
I really want to get into streaming for the next couple months and then see what the schedule is for 2015. But I'm going to school as well in the spring, so I've usually gone to school in the spring every semester though, so usually take falls off.
Just before we finish, WCS changes for next year. What do you think?
I think
Helps puCK or doesn't help puCK?
I think it helps me a lot. Like, I'm really understanding my mistakes, and I think I'll have a really strong mindset going into WCS next year.
All right, cool. Well, good to speak to you as always. Nice to see you at the tournament. We always enjoy watching you playing and seeing you improving. And best of luck against Huck. It's going to be a knockout game for pretty cool credit because those WCS points add up and money adds up, and it's round of 16.
Yeah, that's nice. I also want to give a shout out to Nathanius and the Kappa Star League for sending me here as well. But yeah,
Personal sponsor for the weekend. That's right, isn't it?
for sure.
Really good stuff, yeah. Nathanius can't be with us, but he's kind of with us in spirit.
In spirit.
On the shirt of
He gave
puCK.
me all of his skill for this.
Did he?
week,
Did he
so
lend it to you?
I better win.
I'm
though.
not sure, with all due respect, that's actually going to help you.
It's hard to say.
But he is a Terran, so maybe that's what, you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
tap into the mind and the sense of a Terran to take down
maybe I
Huck.
should play Terran.
God, we put all sorts of weird and wonderful ideas into puCK's head. Who knows what he'll be playing when he comes out, but he will be playing next, and it will be against Huck. They're playing for the final place out of Open Bracket 1. We'll see how they get on after the break.